Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والمطلقات يتربصن بأنفسهن ثلاثة قروء ولا يحل لهن أن يكتمن ما خلق الله في أرحامهن إن كن يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وبعولتهن أحق بردهن في ذلك إن أرادوا إصلاحا ولهن مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف وللرجال عليهن درجة والله عزيز حكيم. This is chapter 2, verse 228. And it's, I'm not going to translate the whole of the verse because it's quite long. Just the last part of it. And it says, and women have rights over their husbands similar to those of their husbands' rights over women, as regards obedience and respect and so on, what is reasonable. And the next verse I want to recite is chapter 30, verse 21. I can find it. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Here you notice that the word ayat is used. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ. And people generally translate that as verses of the Holy Quran. But here it means is وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, and of his signs is this, that he created mates for you from yourselves, that you might find quiet of mind in them. And he put between you love and compassion. Surely there are signs in this for people who reflect. Sadaqallahul Aliyyul Azim. And the Holy Prophet Muhammad told the Ummah that fear Allah regarding being questioned by how you treated women. Verily, you have married them with the trust of Allah and made their bodies lawful with the word of Allah. You have rights over them and they have rights over you in respect of maintenance, etc., according to your means. And then elsewhere he said that the world and all things in the world are precious, but the most precious treasure in this world is a virtuous wife. And once he told Hazrat Umar, shall I not inform you about the best treasure a man can hold? It is a virtuous wife who pleases him whenever he looks towards her and who guards herself when he is absent from her. And then at another time he said, the best thing a man can have is a remembering tongue, a tongue that remembers Allah, a grateful heart, and a wife who helps him in his faith. And again he said, the world, the whole of it, you can regard that as a commodity. And the best of all the commodities you can have is a virtuous wife. I have mentioned these things because on the 8th was International Women's Day. And much was made of it on television and so on. And it is sad to say that women even, well, all over the world have a hard time of it. And although all religious authorities and political and secular authorities give them rights on paper, but when it comes to actually granting those rights in practice, we find that absent. And we see this in many situations. In the UK, for example, women who are subjected to domestic violence and so on, police rarely take any action against the perpetrator. social services who are supposed to rehouse such women if police can't protect them, rarely take the trouble to rehouse them. And it is said that because there is not enough space in refuges where these women should be housed securely. Well, if that is so, then the women's rights are being violated on three accounts. One, of course, is the perpetrator, the husband or whoever it might be, who's violating their right to accommodation, to food, to feeling secure, to living securely, and so on. Secondly, the police who are failing to protect them against such criminal offenses. These are criminal offenses. But the difficulty is, you see, that if a bank is robbed and the police catch the robbers, they are praised for that. But if there's domestic violence and they arrest the perpetrators, no one praises them. No one says this policeman, he's a great man or the great woman because they protected 100 women from domestic violence in the last year. And in fact, this is at a time where things have improved. Previously, if you went to the police, a woman went to the police and said, she was subjected to domestic violence, it was simply regarded as what was called a domestic. And the police would ignore her. The same thing applies to other countries that I know a little about. So from this, can you imagine what the situation is in those countries where women don't have these rights? And really, there needs to be a campaign. Now, I'm talking about not some developing country, not some third world country, but I'm talking about the West. I'm talking about England and America and Canada and what have you. There needs to be a campaign to educate the police and social services about protecting women. And the sad thing is that in many cases, those who deny women protection and security and refuge are women themselves. You see, humanity has gone out of law. It's just about how many people did you deal with today? How many, not even deal with, how many people you got rid of today? That is what is looked at. Not how you dealt with them. Not did you take these women who've been subjected to domestic violence and find them a secure place. There's not even any counseling. To try and sort out any problem that there might be. And it is sad to see that this happens in all communities. One would have thought that this shouldn't be happening in the Muslim community. Why? Because Islam, for its very survival, depended on a woman. It was Hazrat Khadija Radhiyallahu Ta'ala who was the first person to embrace Islam, the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's wife. And she supported him. And she provided him with protection. The year when the Holy Prophet lost his close relatives, his uncle and his wife and so on, in Islamic history, that year is called the year of grief and sorrow. And the Holy Prophet's persecution increased many-fold after his uncle and his wife passed away. So far, its very survival, Islam depended on a woman. If we carry on to later times, women played an essential role in stabilizing Islam. When 300 people went out to give battle at Badr, women went with them to help them, to cook for them, to go and tend soldiers, wounded soldiers on the battlefield, to help them off the field, to bandage them. And another important thing they did was they went round the battlefield and collected the swords and the spears and the shields and everything that had bows and arrows that had fallen and could be reused, and brought them back for the Muslim army. That was an important service for the survival of Islam. And at the Battle of Uhud and at the Battle of the Ditch. But not only that, after the Holy Prophet Muhammad passed away, it is said that 2/3 of the knowledge of religion comes to us from one person. What is his name? His name was Hazrat Aisha, a wife of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, who actually ran a seminary in Medina where she would lecture about the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And she disagreed with illustrious companions on many things. There were a number of sayings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. And Hazrat Abu Huraira Raziyallahu Ta'ala was giving his opinion on what the Holy Prophet meant. And people went and asked Hazrat Aisha. And Hazrat Aisha Raziyallahu Ta'ala said, Allah have mercy on Abu Huraira. This is not what the Holy Prophet meant. And then she went on to say, explain what the Holy Prophet meant. From an early point in her life, the woman is given rights. The Holy Quran says, and take not women as inheritance against their will. What does that mean? That means don't force them to marry people that they don't want to. Here again, the Holy Quran says, women have rights over their husbands similar to the husband's rights over them. They can't be same because men and women are different. But the rights are similar. The person who translated this says in explanation that these rights include obedience That means the man should listen to the wife as well. And respect. It's not a one-way street. Apart from Hazrat Khadija radiallahu ta'ala and Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, there have been many women who played a great role in advancing Islam. If we take the example of the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement, Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ali was employed by the Anjuman, and after the death of Hazrat Maulana Nuruddin, an attempt was made to establish a theocratic dictatorship against the wishes of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, the promised Messiah. And he left. He left Qadian to go to Lahore. He was married. His wife didn't say, "You got a job here. They've given us a house to live in. You get a salary. And suddenly you've decided that because you disagree with these people, you're going to leave Qadian and go to Lahore. How are we going to eat? Where are we going to live?" She supported him. And the sad thing is, if I were to ask you what was her name, 95% of Lahore Ahmadis would not know what her name was. But had it not been for her support, how would he have achieved the tremendous things that he did? And she wasn't the only one. All Lahori Ahmadi women, they made great sacrifices. Dr. Allah Bakhsh was a doctor, he was a forensics expert. When he retired, he could have set up a private forensics practice. He challenged the government laboratories, testing of blood and everything else. And he would have earned a huge amount of money. But he didn't. He went and started working for our center at Lahore, free, living on a meager pension he was getting. If his wife had kicked up a fuss and said, "No, this is not enough, you also need to, run your private forensics practice during the day and then do this work voluntarily at night," maybe he would have agreed, but she didn't. Maulana Abdul Haq Vidyarthi Rahmatullah Alayh, he was a roving missionary of the Central Anjuman. And he was paid very little. And his wife went and got a job. In 1930s, when it was unheard of, even in England, for women to get kind of professional jobs and so on, she was a head teacher. She looked after the house and dealt with all the affairs of the house, while he toured India and then later on other places like UK and Holland and Trinidad and Guyana and Suriname and Fiji, etc., supporting Anjuman's activities for propagation of Islam. My point is this, that men and women need to treat each other as equals, not one superior to the other. But more importantly, that authorities need to make arrangements to make sure that where this doesn't happen, then especially women, they are protected. And police shouldn't have the right to just put something down, oh, it's a domestic, and just leave it. Oh, when we got there, he ran off. Well, is this what you do when a bank is robbed? You get there and the robbers have run off, and you just say, oh, but we got there, but the robbers had run off, and you stop looking for them. Why is this crime any less of a crime than bank robbery or anything else? And then when someone is murdered or something, then the chief of police comes on the television and says, I apologize, I'm very sorry. Well, what good is that to anyone? What action have you taken to make sure this doesn't happen again? I bet you none. Local social services don't take any action to protect women and children. The police don't take any action. So who's to do it? Islam has provided rights for everyone, and those rights need to be protected. So let us as Muslims start a campaign to force the parliament, to force the police forces and social services, have legislation, effective legislation, which forces the police to take action, which forces social services to take action. And if they don't, then holds them to account so that they can't get away with, oh, I apologize, I'm very sorry. What good is that to orphans that have been left behind? Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun kareemun malikun barrahur rahim. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasul. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma ansur man nasara dina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam waj'alna minhum واخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Ready? Yeah. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف معقول. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. ربنا الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan. Amin. Tabarak. Thank you for joining us for our Friday service. You might have noticed that the beginning was a bit different. The reason for that is that we are having some technical hardware and software issues, which we hope will be sorted out this weekend. So thank you for bearing with us. And this is one reason why we couldn't broadcast our Tadabburul Quran, reflections on the Holy Quran, from Monday to Thursday. So I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep everyone safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Kula Hafiz, and goodbye.